Welcome to Will's Low Production Value Show.
Will's Low Production Value
Cocktail Show.
Starring Will. Today's drink is the Rob Roy.
Yay.
Hello, and welcome to Will's Low Production Value Cocktail Show. I forgot to turn on my light.
If only there was someone to do that for you.
I'm Will, and welcome to my home. Today we're going to make probably like the drink, or one of the two drinks I drink at home the most, which is a Rob Roy, which is basically a riff on Manhattan, but instead of using like or bourbon, it uses Scotch whiskey. So the reason I drink it so much at home is it's super delicious and way more delicious than the effort you have to put into it. It's like a three-ingredient drink, which I'll talk about now. Firstly, there's bitters, usually use Angostura. Angostura bitters are just like, or I guess all bitters are like herbs and spices that have been soaked in alcohol, and they're like delicious, and they basically are like the defining characteristic of old school cocktails. The second ingredient is a sweet vermouth. I'm using Carpano Antica, which is my favorite sweet vermouth, but it's kind of expensive. Feel free to use whichever version or kind you want. Anything from like Martini and Cinzano are all delicious. Just pick something that you want. And lastly, and these Rob Roys specifically call for Scotch whiskey. Don't use like a good single malt Scotch. Like use something shitty, like not shitty, but like Famous Grouse. And I'm using like the smoked Famous Grouse, which actually makes for like a really, really, really good drink. It's a bit more interesting than just like your basic blended whiskey. So before we started shooting, I've been filling and chilling my like super fancy coupe or coup glass, depending on how anal you are about French pronunciations. Just because we're going to be serving this drink up for the sake of like being fancy on the internet. But normally I would just serve this drink on the rocks. So the basic ratios that I like to use are 2 ounces of your whiskey, my whiskey in this case, not like you're sharing with anyone given I'm stuck at home alone. And the amount of vermouth that you use can vary. Like some people like it a bit drier, so like a ½ ounce. Some people like to go as much as 1 ounce. I sort of tend to the middle at 3/4. So add 3/4 of an ounce of your vermouth. And then it's like just a dash of bitters. Like you really don't have to worry. You don't need too much, just enough to sort of bring it together. We'll add some ice to it. We'll give it a stir. Normally, like if I was drinking this at home, I would call this drink done and just like go and drink it with ice and let it dilute itself. But again, we're going to be fancy today, and so we're going to stir it and strain it. So usually you got to stir these guys something like 30 seconds, which gives us like lots of time for my friends to sass me. If you guys have anything to say?
You're stirring it so well.
I knew it had low production value, but I didn't think it was this low.
So yeah, give a cocktail a stir, something like 30. Just enough to sort of get it dilute, get it cold. You can tell when it's starting to get cold, like the glass, whatever you're stirring it in, will start getting kind of chilly. Anyways, I'm going to call that good. I'm going to dump my ice and water mixture and strain this cocktail into our way too fancy glass for this kind of a drink. You can garnish this with whatever you want. Like a lot of people, it's actually really good with like a lemon peel, especially with the smoky whiskey. Orange if you want, but the classic garnish is cherries. And I have these like Riotine cherries that are like Kirsch and sugar preserved, and they're like really, really tasty. I'm just gonna add one of those and like stick it into the bottom there. And there we go, it's a Manhattan. We got it close, super clear, super delicious, cherry floating at the bottom. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.